Yeah. Family, y'all. Just keep it tight, keep it tight, keep it tight. Oh, right. Yeah. Here we go.
I'm the Reverend Dr. Jamie Mathias, pastor of Holy Family Catholic Church in Austin, Texas. During our parish course on the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Bible, we've been learning that the book of Genesis was the attempt of our ancient ancestors to explain the pre-scientific world in which they lived. For our ancient Israelite ancestors, those stories in Genesis told them where they came from, why they died, why they wore clothes and worked for a living, why women endure the terrible pains of childbirth, and yes, why evil exists in the world. Every world culture has its stories or myths to explain where evil comes from. The ancient Egyptians were among the first to believe that an evil god, Apophis, was responsible for all the injustice and evil in our world. The ancient Persians similarly believed that all the evil in the world was due to an uncreated, malicious god. And it was from the Persians that we borrowed the idea of Satan or the devil, some evil spirit conniving to work against the forces of good and to tempt us to put ourselves above God and others. For the ancient Greeks, evil entered the world when the first woman on earth, Pandora, disobeyed the god's instructions never to open a box that contained all the evil in the world. And our ancient Hebrew ancestors shared a similar story, saying that evil entered the world when the first woman, Eve, disobeyed the instructions of her God. That's the story in today's first reading, where a talking snake is purportedly helping the first couple to understand the good that might accrue to them if they were to disobey their God's instructions. We can learn a lot from such stories. Did Pandora open the box because she was an evil woman? No. Did Adam and Eve eat the forbidden fruit because they were wicked, malicious people? No. But the authors of those ancient texts were trying to explain why it is that we're sometimes tempted to say and do things that we know we shouldn't say and do. The book of Genesis tells us that when God created humankind in God's own image, male and female, God said that it was good. So, why did Adam and Eve supposedly eat the fruit of that tree? Did they eat that fruit because they were bad, evil, malicious people? Or did they eat it because they were human beings like you and me? Think about the irony of it all for a moment. We don't say and do bad things because we're bad people. We say and do those things because they appear good to us in that moment. Let's try a few examples. Why do children lie to their parents? Children lie to their parents because the thought of avoiding punishment seems like a good idea. Why would a teenager think of taking or stealing $20 from the cash register of his or her workplace when no one is watching? Because it seemed like a good idea. Why would an adult say or do something that harms another person? Because in the heat of the moment it just seemed like the thing to do. Yes, sometimes the very animal fight and flight instinct kicks in and we do what seems to be the best option in that moment. And so sometimes we fight. Consider for a moment how we as human beings think. We're always choosing that which appears to us to be good. And so, when you have to choose between doing your homework or playing a video game, you're tempted to do that which seems good at that moment. When you have to decide whether to walk or ride your bicycle or take the bus or drive your car, you're making a decision about what seems best at that moment. When you have to choose between chocolate ice cream or vanilla ice cream, you choose the one that strikes you as best at that moment. And when you have to decide between obeying your God's directions about not eating a certain fruit on a certain tree, or eating that fruit, which you believe will make you as wise as your God, you're making a decision about what seems good to you at that moment. That's the situation in which Adam and Eve found themselves, and the thought of being as all-knowing as God seemed like a very good option. It just seemed like a good idea to them. If we eat the fruit of this tree, we can be as wise as God. And history has painted Adam and Eve as bad people ever since. Poor Adam and Eve. Another example, think about this for a moment. Judas Iscariot is known in history as a betrayer. But he was just wanting to help his friend Jesus. Judas was a follower, a disciple of Jesus. He believed that Jesus was the Messiah, and he believed that by placing Jesus in a situation where Jesus could show his power and destroy the forces of the Roman Empire, Jesus and his followers would emerge victorious. They would be heroes forever after. Judas was just trying to do good. And the evangelists, the gospel writers, labeled him as evil. And so for 20 centuries, we've believed that Judas was an evil, malicious man. Poor Judas. Isn't it tempting to judge other people, to write them off as bad or evil? Isn't it tempting to condemn people who are using, dare I say it, birth control and artificial means of contraception, which the Roman Catholic Church labels as intrinsically evil? Isn't it tempting to fall into the trap of believing that those who love and live with others outside of the sacrament of marriage in the Roman Catholic Church are living in sin? Isn't it tempting to judge our lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgendered brothers and sisters because some preach that homosexual acts are intrinsically disordered? And isn't it tempting to think that some ministries in the church and some positions in society should be reserved exclusively for men, and that women should be excluded? That's not the way of Jesus. Time and again, the Gospels paint a picture of Jesus as loving and embracing, as welcoming and inclusive. In fact, Jesus condemned the Pharisees, the religious leaders of his day, for looking down on others and for judging others. I once ministered with a friend in the Roman Catholic Church who said that one day he was going to write a book called The Bishop and His Pharisees. He was speaking to that deep truth that Jesus would probably be a little upset with some of the religious leaders of our day. With those who attempt to put themselves above others, like the Pharisees of Jesus' day, and with those who are tempted to judge and to look down on others. Time and again we find Jesus saying, "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, you hypocrites." Oh, the things that we could learn from children. This week I participated in No Place for Hate rallies at 3 local elementary schools. The students of those schools made bold public statements standing up for inclusivity and diversity, speaking out for love and peace and harmony, and condemning hatred and bullying. Brothers and sisters, it's time to stop judging the intentions of others. It's time to stop writing others off as bad or evil people. And it's time to stop the hatred and bullying, especially the hatred and bullying that we've perpetrated in the name of religion. It's time, for example, to stop the bullying of women in our churches and in our society. It's time to stop bullying our LGBTQ brothers and sisters. It's time to stop bullying those couples who live together outside the sacrament of marriage, but who love one another and who love their children and who contribute so greatly to our society. It's time to stop judging others' love. And it's also time to stop judging others' intentions. It's time to stop judging people who seek to responsibly limit the sizes of their families It's time to stop judging those who feel called to step up and fill the vacuums of leadership in our church and in our society. And it's time to stop judging who's worthy to receive the Eucharist. What is evil? Evil is using ancient texts to justify our modern-day bigotry and biases. That's intrinsically evil. Evil is using institutional beliefs and traditions to perpetuate misogynistic and homophobic attitudes. That's intrinsically disordered. To continue to oppress and bully others, that's just unconscionable, especially for enlightened church and civil leaders. This weekend, we celebrate the second anniversary of the establishment here in Austin of the American Catholic Church in the United States. We celebrate 2 years of being a welcoming and inclusive Catholic community. We celebrate 2 years of living together as family. In the American Catholic Church, we know that we have a very different view of issues of conscience. We believe that God created the human being and that God proclaimed our humanity, our humanness, to be good. We believe Jesus' words that God is in us and that we are in God. And while we continue to work at the tough task of forming the consciences of those for whom we're responsible, we have to trust that each person is making the best decisions he or she can in any given situation. We have to trust that each person is doing what he or she believes to be good. And we have to trust that each person is doing the best that he or she can with what he or she has. That's respect. That's love. And that's creating a church that is no place for hate.